welcome to the Nathan channel. I'm Nathan, your host. Today we're going to be using Collab from Google to be coding up some stuff on Python because we're going to be looking at readmission data, and I'm going to go step by step here, and we're going to try to get these correlation values from that data. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to create a variable called data URL that is going to hold our CSV file. Now, if you don't know how to do that, let me know and I can create a tutorial on how to do so. And I can certainly do that for you. It's pretty easy. But you're going to create that variable with the URL corresponding to either your Git link or a Google Docs publish to web link. And you're going to call upon that variable. We're going to hit play on this little button here. Okay. It read the file correctly. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to import pandas. That's a Python package that has a lot of different functions that you can use. Okay, so we imported pandas. We're going to be using that later on, but let's look at the data columns right now. Columns. Let's see. Excuse me, data/URL, but okay, so I should have mentioned here, we're gonna read the file with pandas. That's the first thing we're gonna do, and the way we do that, we're gonna call it data is gonna equal to pandas dot read CSV, and it's gonna be data URL. We're gonna put inside there so it can read the CSV. Pandas can read a lot of different files. CSV is one of them, and that's the one we're going to be using. Okay, so it was successful. It has a green check mark here. Now we can do this one. Let's see, index object is not callable. Okay, here we go. So you just didn't need the parentheses. So here are the columns we have. All our X's and our Y would be number of deaths and readmissions. Now we're going to take this and we can define, let me add a thing here, an extra code snippet. We can add our X and Y values even though we're not going to use them this way, because I just want to show you so you can have in mind what you want and what you don't want your X values to be. Y value, we only have one, which is going to be this right here. Perfect. Copy selection. Okay, and all of our X values are going to be the remaining values, but we're going to look carefully, and if there's any we don't want, then we're not going to include it. Okay. Year, county, hospital. This is an ID value. Measure, risk adjusted rate. Let's leave them all for now. Take away the Y value. Leave them all for now, and we'll work with that if we need to change it later on. Look at the data correlation matrix. So let's call a new variable correlation matrix. That is going to equal data.core, and that I believe does have a parentheses. Yep, and we already made it a variable, but we're going to call that variable. And let's see what that looks like. Okay, so here we go. Risk adjusted rate, number of readmissions, number of cases. Perfect. So in this data correlation, we want index 1 because it starts with 0, 1, 2. So 1, 2, 3. We want, or 0, 1, 2. We want number 2 to be what we're evaluating as our Y value. So let's keep that in mind. Row of interest is going to be the index of that. Like I said, it's row 1, so it's going to be data.iloc row 2, or row 1, excuse me. That's going to be our row of interest. Now, we're going to call the variable to double check that. Row of interest. Let's see. Okay. Now we're going to take the absolute value list of the row of interest. And we do that by doing row of interest dot absolute value. Type error, bad operands, absolute. Let me see what I did wrong here. So let's go back here and look at our correlation. Okay, so these are all numerical values. Oh, I see what we did. We chose data instead of correlation matrix. I went to the original one when I was supposed to go to. There we go. That makes more sense. Okay. So we're going to take the absolute value of these, and then we're going to get the top correlations equals, we're going to do correlation matrix dot sort values, and we're going to say ascending equals false because we want it to be descending. Then we're going to show the top correlations, calling out that variable. Okay, let's see. Absolute value list. Okay, I'm sorry. Instead of the correlation matrix, we should use the new variable we created, the absolute value list. There we go. Let's see if that works. Okay, perfect. So we are doing them in order. Then I was going to show you how to do the top 5 values, which I'll still show you, but it won't make a difference in this case. It's top values or top correlations dot head. That should show you, just head by itself shows you the top 5 values, but we do 6 because the first one is already counting the value itself. But in this case we only have 3, so that's what we get. Let me make sure you guys can see the values here. So what we did in review was we created a value with the data URL, your CSV link, which you can do as a GET link, or you can as raw data, or you can do it by downloading a CSV file, opening it up with Google Sheets, and creating a link, publishing it to the web. You'll get this link here. I'm gonna link the data set to the video description, so it'll be easier for you to find. And we call that variable so we can check that everything's good, and it is. We import pandas because we're going to be using the pandas function to read the CSV. Next, we take a look at the columns so we can know what we're working with. Next, this is not necessary in terms of like the calculations we made and the things we worked on. We did not ever use X or Y values, but I like to see them visually as a visual person. I like to see what are my X values, what are my Y values. So that's a practice I have just to see it, and so the code can be more readable. Next, you're going to define your correlation matrix by taking data, the original table, and using the correlation function. Then you call it so you can see what the correlations are, and here we are. This is a correlation matrix, and we're going to look at 0, 1. We want to know number of deaths and readmissions. What are the correlation values corresponding to that as compared to everything else? Then we're going to create a variable called row of interest, and we're going to use iloc, which helps you look for a numerical index in a table or in a matrix like we did. And I showed you it was row number 1 because it starts the count at 0. call the variable to see if it works. It does, but just in case, like when we have negative values, we want to make sure that we're going from taking the absolute value of all of these numbers and then going from largest to smallest. So we use this function, the abs function, to take the absolute value. Then we took the top correlations. There we go. Took the top correlations and we put them in descending order. We called upon that variable, and that showed right here. And if you would have had more values like 20, 30, 40, you use this head function to show you the top 5. And I say top 5 because the first value it's going to show you is going to be the value itself that you're evaluating. So whatever it is, just add 1 and put that on head. Head by default shows 5. So that's the 30-day stroke readmission data, how you can play around with it in Python and get the correlation values. I believe this is specifically a Pearson correlation value calculation. So there you go. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you found it interesting, please like, comment, share, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.